The bipartisanship you just saw in Miami may be on rather short supply in Capitol Hill. President Obama calling today for Republicans and Democrats to come together and try to reach a deal over the budget. But lawmakers may not be listening to those calls for cooperation, as closing the gap that separates the proposals of both parties remains large and elusive. So what will it take to find some common ground? Here now, Erin Billings, the deputy editor of Roll Call. Erin, good to see you. I want to go through some numbers because everybody's kind of playing with the numbers. $4 billion has already been cut. We know that. Republicans, though, want a total of $61 billion in cuts. The White House is offering $6.5 billion more in cuts. And yet, today, President Obama said he's met Republicans halfway. Well, not by a long shot. That halfway, is, according to my calculations, would be about $30 billion more in cuts, not 6.5. So is the president's math fuzzy at best?
I mean, I think everybody is kind of playing with the math right now, but here's what we know. We've got about a $50 billion difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, and that is quite a large divide. And I think everybody's going to have to give up something. I mean, the Republican passed bill, the $61 billion in cuts that you mentioned, is not going to pass the Senate. The president won't sign it. And that the Democrats counter with this $10.5 billion cut, that's not going to fly with the Republicans. So somebody's going to have to give. And, you know, you're seeing the president now engaging. The Democrats have been saying, where are you? You've got to engage. You've got to show some leadership. He seems to be stepping it up, but we're really not that much closer to a deal. And
to be fair, Republicans are also using some tricky math. They claim the total of their proposed spending cuts is $102 billion. But actually, based on this year's budget, it's really $61 billion. So both sides are guilty of mathematical deception, but there will be a vote Tuesday. Harry Reid announced it. Both the proposals, but they're not going to pass, are they?
It looks like both will fail, and I think that's what has to happen so that the senators, the Senate leaders, can get their members to the table and say, look, we've got to negotiate. The Democratic plan won't pass, and the Republican plan won't pass. So there's got to be a compromise, and I think they've got to actually go through those motions, if you will, to convince members, hey, a deal has to happen.
And which brings me to my next question, because in the new Senate with the new numbers, Republicans do have enough votes to block any attempt by Democrats to change that House bill. Doesn't that mean that in reality the only way to fund the government is through House Republicans?
Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I think everybody has a role to play here. I mean, clearly Democrats still control the Senate. They don't have 60 votes anymore, but they still are in charge. And let's not forget, the president has the power of the veto pen, and that cannot be discounted.
You know, Nancy Pelosi just a few days ago ripped into Republicans for proposed cuts in education. But the truth is the president's 2012 budget calls for cuts or elimination of federal education programs. She's not criticizing that, is she?
We haven't heard that. There's lots of finger pointing and lots of blaming going on. Everybody is kind of picking the numbers they want to, they want to highlight and talking about the cuts they want to pinpoint. So, I mean, you mentioned fuzzy math. I mean, math is really, I don't know whose math is right, whose math is wrong, but, I think we all know that people are playing a little politics here.
Yeah, I think both sides would flunk basic math, but they'd pass hypocrisy. Look, there was a big jump in private jobs reported yesterday, cutting the unemployment rate below 9%, which may actually be an important sort of psychological barrier that's been overcome. True, it's still well below, what the president promised if the $1 trillion stimulus passed a couple of years ago, but never does that give Democrats a bit of a lift that the economy is getting better.
Well, sure. I mean, anytime that jobless rate goes down, even by the smallest margin, that gives Democrats some momentum. And we all know that this next election is going to be largely won and lost on the economy. And so anytime the Democrats can say, and President Obama can say, look, things are headed in the right direction, they're gonna crow about that for sure.
Erin Billings, deputy editor of Roll Call, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.